Film Club.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Film Club. I'm one of your hosts, Andy Harrison, and with me, as always, it's Andy Donaldson.
Howdy.
Every week in Film Club, we invite you along to watch a film with us, and this week, it's time to take a look at Toy Story.
And as the years go by,
our friendship will never die.
you're gonna see it's our destiny. You got a friend in me.
You got a friend in me.
You got a friend in me.
Cracking film about a bunch of toys, sentient toys who are owned by Andy, loved by Andy, and a new toy comes into the picture. Buzz Lightyear, who's amazing, is the best, and Woody pushes him out a window, and then they get caught by Sid, who's an evil little shit, and they run back and meet up with Andy. Sentient toys cause havoc is probably a good little line for this film. And this is Pixar's debut, is it?
Mm-hmm.
I think it is their first film.
It's their first feature.
First feature, sorry, that's it. John Lasseter is his directorial debut as well. Lasseter, sorry. Toy Story is where it all began. And I haven't seen this in ages, and it was so refreshing watching it again. But I know you're a fan as well, Andy. You know, we kind of grew up on this stuff.
I mean, in terms of growing up, it probably doesn't get more on the nose than Toy Story. Like, Toy Story came out in 1995. As far as I remember, it is one of the first films I ever saw in cinemas. That whole series is obviously about Andy and his toys and the growing up process. So when this came out, Andy, I think, is like 6 in the film. I was 5 or 6 at the time when this came out. Obviously, as he grows up, like in Toy Story 2, we're growing up at the same sort of rate. And then Toy Story 3 rolls around, and I remember being, I think, in I want to say my first year at university, and Andy is like just heading off to university, and they do that. And obviously, I mean, come on, he's also called Andy.
I mean, what better reference is there ever? They made that film for us too, just so we could have this review and self-reflect.
Even to this day, I sometimes walk into a classroom and my students all go, "Andy's coming," and then like pretend to be asleep.
But no, it is though. It's absolutely right. I also remember, whilst it was Toy Story 2 to be fair, but me and you played that Toy Story game all the time where you fight against Zurg and everything.
It's a great encapsulation of like what it's like to be a child. I guess what you hope is going on with your toys when you're a kid. You know, you've got your Action Man, and you hope that when you leave the room, he's fighting Dr. X and messing around with other Action Men.
God.
Like,
Dr. X, good memory, Andy. Mate. Good memory. I would not have got that at all.
Oh, finally. Ugh. Hey, who's got my hat?
Look, I'm Woody. Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Give me that.
Toy Story isn't just a wonderful film, it's an immensely historically important film. It is the first feature-length computer-generated animation.
That's
the first film to ever use computer-generated animation throughout its entire runtime. Now, not only did it launch like Pixar as a company and the careers of a bunch of people, they had, like a couple of years prior, had made a short film called Tin Toy, which is about a little tin toy coming to life. It's a great short, by the way. If anyone ever wants to go check it out, it's fantastic. I'll put a link in the comments. And off of the back of that, they got involved with Disney, and they got involved with there's the classic story about Pixar being bought out by Apple, and Steve Jobs got involved. You know, Toy Story became this historical moment because not only is it this great technical achievement, and it's rare that you get a great technical achievement that also succeeds on a creative level as well.
And some of the animations are a little dated, a bit janky, can be. But God, it holds up so well, doesn't it? For 1995, it's not just impressive, but it's a lot better than some of the stuff you see nowadays. Because some of the stuff you see nowadays is just horrid, and they go a bit too overboard with the effects, or everything just looks like a mobile game sort of thing. Whereas with this, it's so true. And the thing about the animations using is one thing as I noted down is there is so much imagination in this film, and they must have had such a blast doing it. You look at the way that Woody walks compared to Bo Peep, compared to Potato Head, compared to the Army Men. Every one of them's got their own walking style. Every one of them's got their own particular like communication skills and voice lines. Like the car can't talk, RC can't talk. He just kind of looks and meeps sort of thing. The Army Men are all kind of yes sir, and with a language and a hand signals and everything. You got Woody, who's obviously a cowboy. There is so much imagination throughout this, and as I said, it just the whole team coming together and designing this brilliant bit of story.
I'd also say that it holds up because it's fundamentally its core. It's kind of genius, right? When you're doing the first ever computer generated animation, it's never going to look incredible. Well, it does look incredible, but I mean, like, it's never going to hold up for years and years and years and years and years. And I think the bits of Toy Story that don't hold up are essentially the humans. But the genius of Toy Story is it's not about the humans. And it's not trying to take place in a photorealistic world, which is what a lot of animation gets caught up on today. It's taking place in like this sort of heightened reality, and its primary characters are toys. They are plastic. Old animation, old CG animation gets a lot of flack for looking plastic. So let's make sure that the characters are actually made of plastic.
It's really cool because you look at Bo Peep and her skin's very shiny compared to Woody. And, like, there's that obviously a very plastic or porcelain. It's really interesting how they managed to do that. You're on about the humans not being realistic. Sid, by the way, is not very realistic because that guy is, however old he's supposed to be, let's say 6, if he's same age as Andy, is a maniac. The most unrealistic thing in this film is how good he is at a claw machine. He got 3 toys in a row.
And can we also appreciate that in his house, this is a really weird little reference I can't believe I picked up on. His carpet is the carpet from the Overlook Hotel in The Shining.
Oh, God.
Just to add an extra level of creepiness to that little git.
I could fly if I wanted to, like a bird in the sky. If I believed I could fly, why I'd fly
To infinity and beyond.
Clearly I will go sailing. No.
But we've got to give a big sort of tip of the hat here to the whole voice cast, because animation can really live and die on a voice cast. And these guys let it thrive because you've got Tom Hanks as Woody, who is just so wonderfully wholesome and charming and sort of like just the sort of guy you want to hang out with.
Yeah.
Tim Allen as Buzz Lightyear, who
brilliant.
I think is equal parts hilarious and a perfect sort of straight, doesn't believe he's not a toy spaceman.
And yet you can pull it off. You can pull off the non-serious stuff later on, as he does in the later half of the film.
And then you've got just some of the shining support cast, right? Just incredible. Don Rickles as Mr. Potato Head.
Brilliant.
You get Jim Varney as Slinky Dog.
Yeah.
You get Wallace Shawn as Rex, and Rex is just fantastic.
Rex is hilarious. Just to shout out to the scene where everyone's like doing the weights, and Rex, obviously his little tiny arms, is pulling up like a toothpick or something. Brilliant.
You've got Annie Potts as Bo Peep, who's great. And then I think creme de la creme, John Ratzenberger as Ham.
Yes, I was just about to ask. I always know his name because he's in every single Pixar film, isn't he? He is at Heimlich. Is it Heimlich?
He is P.T. Flea in A Bug's Life.
Yes, that's it. He's just such a likable voice. Another little reference I forgot to mention is when Buzz falls out the window. Did you hear the Wilhelm scream?
Yeah. How would you miss it?
The actual soundtrack itself was done by Randy Newman, and he absolutely kills it. You look at songs like "You've Got a Friend in Me," and just how iconic that is, how it's been used throughout the series, and just how that is true Toy Story. It's not often a guy can just, or someone can just write a soundtrack and original songs and provide that to a film, and then just to fit the scene so well and become iconic.
I think that's the best thing about the film, right? It's weirdly iconic out the gate. Like, you have that opening scene with "You've Got a Friend in Me." You've got the whole "To Infinity and Beyond." You've got "You are a toy." You've got "You're a sad, strange little man." You've got quotable lines. You've also got stuff towards the end where it's like the forming of the friendship between Buzz and Woody that would go on to like define the series, really, the trilogy, because there's only 3 films. There isn't a 4th film. Somehow, just out of the gate, manages to create this piece that feels timeless. And I don't know, when you're talking about toys, you're talking about essentially branded toys for the most part as well. There's lots of like, Miss Potato Head is an established toy. You've got Mattel, I think, in parts of the film. You've got logos that pop up and sort of establish Slinky Dogs and Connect 4, and it's all stuff that's owned by like Hasbro and everybody. And yet the film transcends all of that because it's not really about the brand. It's not really about those references. It's purely, at its heart, a character story, one that struggled quite notoriously in pre-production. You know, there's versions of this film that wildly differ from what we ended up with. There's sort of pre-renders, pre-viz versions of this film in which, you know, Woody is a mean, cynical character. There's you know, versions of this film where Buzz doesn't
He is
exist.
still quite mean.
I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen some of the early stuff that
I haven't actually.
Infamously, Tom Hanks had to put his foot down and just sort of say, you know, why are you writing such a mean-spirited character? This guy is not likable. But it's a testament to the process and critical process they went through in terms of refining the film and ultimately ending up with something that really, really connects with its audiences. I know it's one of those very few films that somehow has come out with a 100% fresh score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
So there is Toy Story. You can let us know in the comments below what you thought of Toy Story. Which one's your favourite? What do you think of the trilogy as a whole as well? Because it's a trilogy. But Andy and I are going to be back once again next week, where we're going to take a look at The Thing.
Terrifying times of the future.
Until then, you can get watching.